Hello and welcome to the Post to Post podcast. My name is Neil. I'm joined here with Brent. We're coming to you on a Sunday, March 24th, I think. Is it March 24th?
Yeah, it is.
March
24th.
March 24th.
For some people, the date still matters.
Exactly, yeah. March 24th. Lots to talk about. We are really creeping up on the playoffs here. We have teams with maybe like 5 or 6 games left. Things are getting really tight in the East. Things are getting even more tighter in the West. We've got 3 teams in the West that are kind of really battling for a couple of spots there. We have, I would say probably 3 in the East as well. Things are a little bit more loose in the East as far as today when we're filming this. But it's really exciting. It's an exciting time of the year for hockey. I wouldn't say it's as exciting as the playoffs because nothing is more exciting than the playoffs. But the race to the playoffs in the final 2 weeks is never not exciting.
Yeah, it's great. And this weekend, or this day in particular, in the East, without just getting into the team names, because we'll talk about that to death here shortly, but the 2 teams that are fighting over that 8th final wildcard spot, after tonight, could be as close as 1 point apart or as far away as 5 points apart.
How does that work?
Because if Columbus loses in Vancouver and Montreal beats Carolina, then they actually have a 5-point lead over Columbus, with Columbus only holding 1 game in hand.
Okay.
So
that, man, I can't imagine that scenario if I'm Columbus. Like, that's not acceptable.
It's unacceptable. Columbus has to get it done tonight in Vancouver.
And Montreal has to lose.
And Montreal has to lose to help Columbus do that. Because right now, Montreal holds they don't hold the tiebreaker, but they hold the advantage. Because at present, if Columbus wins all of the games in hand that they have, they're still a point behind Montreal.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. I still don't think Montreal's going to make the playoffs. I still do think that Columbus is going to make it. They have an easier schedule.
They do.
Montreal has a really tough schedule coming up, so you'll probably see them flop a little bit. But yeah, anyways, lots to talk about today. I was going to do the game recaps and all that stuff first, but I actually want to talk about a few things. Just a couple of quick pointers, real quick.
Sure.
As far as clinched teams, as far as right now when we're filming this, there's a few teams that have already clinched a playoff spot. Tampa Bay, Boston, Winnipeg, Calgary, and San Jose are the teams
that is correct.
Officially listed by NHL.com that have clinched a spot. So huge news for Calgary there. They get back in the playoffs, which is amazing for the city. They're having such a good year. And I'm really happy for the franchise and their fans. Winnipeg's back in as well, so that's huge news as well to get back in after their really great season last year and a bit of a run they went on to the conference finals. And they're playing some pretty strong hockey lately. We saw that last night against Nashville. And good for San Jose as well to continue their. Oh man, San Jose's been playing pretty strong hockey for the past 15 years or so. So.
Yeah, and the best news of all for Calgary is if things don't go all crazy bad for them, they're going to have home ice advantage in the West all the way to the
looks like they should
conference final.
Looks like they should, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a real positive.
Really good news for Calgary for sure.
Yeah.
In other news, Chara, who is 42, has signed a 1-year extension for $2 million. What's your thoughts on this?
I think it's great. It's great for him, and it's great for Boston, and it's great to get this locked down well before the end of the regular season, so you don't have that uncertainty. Is this Chara's last game if you're in the playoffs or something? You know it's not.
Exactly.
That's not on the issue anymore. At $2 million for a guy who can, I think he got at least 1 goal or 2 yesterday. Nice ones.
He got 1, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so he's still worth it, and good for them and good for him.
Yeah, and he brings a ton of experience too.
Oh, yeah.
Even just experience alone. It's kind of like Jágr when he was starting to fade away. It's like 25% of what Jágr used to be, but it's still Jágr and his experience, and he can, mentor the young players and stuff. So I think that's kind of what's going on with Chara, and he's still an athletic beast. He's in such good shape. He just fought someone the other night and tuned him up. So I really like this signing. I think it's pretty cool.
And it's a bargain. You could look at it as a bargain.
Well, he was making I think he was making 5.
Yeah.
5.25 or something like that before. So he's taken a $3 million pay cut basically. So it's still good for Boston. It's good for Chara. It's good for the fans, and
it's awesome. Yeah,
good
for them. It's really good that they've got him for next year. It's an issue that's out of mind right now. They can just go back to focusing on getting the best finish they can and getting ready for Toronto.
Exactly. Yeah. Next quick topic, Don Cherry. Do you think that his suits are as silly or more silly than the Carolina celebrations?
That's a very good question because I have largely agreed with Don Cherry in his criticism of the Carolina celebrations.
And I've completely disagreed.
You have. But when you look at Don Cherry's attire, that can be considered fairly by a reasonable person to be just as, if not more bizarre than some of the antics that we see from some teams. So,
I agree.
Yeah, that there's something to be said there.
You can't. I don't think you can wear suits. Like, obviously, he is, but I don't think that you can. I don't think you can wear suits like that and criticize a team for being silly, and think that what you're wearing is okay. Like, that's just something's not right up in the head if you actually think that what you're wearing isn't silly, but what they're doing is. I just think that's ridiculous. So I think he's totally out to lunch there, and he's getting himself in trouble. He's not getting himself in trouble, but he's how do I word this? He's making himself look a little silly.
Yeah, he a little silly,
and not because he's.
Yeah, and what he's doing, too, is he's putting at risk some of the credibility he has left.
That's right.
And some people would say he has all kinds of credibility, and some would say that it's just a joke to have him there.
Right.
And most people are probably in between. Speaking of Don, did you happen to see Coach's Corner last night when you were out and about?
I saw it, but without audio, so
okay.
No.
I didn't see this in the broadcast itself, but they made mention of it. Ron brought it up, but you know how the LA Kings will have celebrities in the broadcast booth.
Ron Burgundy.
Ron Burgundy was there, Will Ferrell playing the character Ron Burgundy, and I think if I heard it right, he did play-by-play for like the entire second period. Mm-hmm. And he was I heard some clips. He was really good.
He was funny, yeah.
He was really good, and he mentioned Don Cherry.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, I forget the exact context, but they played that piece last night in Coach's Corner for Don to hear. And I don't know if I don't think he was talking about best dress, but he was talking about, greatest stars or some crazy thing. Oh, and of course you got to remember Don Cherry or something like that. So Don would love that because he's a bit of a flower.
He needs his ego pumped up a little bit. But,
but Will Ferrell did a great job, and when he was actually doing the play-by-play and calling some breakaways and things, I was right in the moment. He was better than Doc.
Definitely. I would listen to an entire game of that. So yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Next quick topic, Edmonton. They've been struggling. Mm-hmm. 100% truth I need from you. Do you think it's whose fault is it? Is it the players or is it the management?
I still think it's the management.
I'm thinking like 70-30.
Yeah.
70 management, 30 players.
Yeah. There's something broken in the office. And when you look at just the raw talent that's on the bench and you add that all up, you should be coming back with a better team than you've got.
I agree. And I don't know what happened. Like the other year in the playoffs, Edmonton did fairly well. They were really, really competitive. And you saw a lot of potential in that team. And next year, I think I predicted them to go to the finals, I think. And they didn't even make the playoffs. And I don't know what happened after that series or after that season that changed and put things back to the way that they were, and that with that losing culture. But there is a culture problem with the team, and I don't know how you fix it. I think it's mostly management, and some of that's already been addressed with the firing of the GM. But still, you have Koskinen now. That everyone knows that Koskinen is weak on his glove side. There's teams strictly shooting glove side on him on a nightly basis now because they know that his glove side is weak. Who else is going to put in net long term? You've already made the decision to sign him and go in that direction. So, I
feel bad for them.
I do too. Absolutely.
I feel bad for them.
They better not get the first round pick this year.
Well, by the look of history, if they do get a first round pick, it won't do them any good.
That's true.
Jeez. Yeah, they got a lot to fix there, and I'm no hockey operations genius. they've done some work on some things. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Ken Hitchcock is still officially an experiment to the end of the year, right?
I think an experiment is the right word, yeah.
So there's a lot of resetting that can happen over the summer and as we get into the draft period, and we'll see what happens. I expect a better club next year. I expect the Pownell Pee Wee team to be a better club next year. And there's 2 teams behind Edmonton, so we're really not being fair to them. Vancouver and Arizona were eliminated even before Edmonton was from the playoff picture and all that. So, but still, it's for a team and for all of the assessment that we're doing of all the teams, as we do every week, you don't really measure the team against last year or against all the other teams it's playing against. You measure them against the expectations that we had.
That's right.
And I think most of the hockey community had at the beginning of the year. And I think nobody predicted that they would be struggling this much.
And like Buffalo is another example too.
Yeah, especially after the start they got off to.
I know, 10-game winning streak.
Wow.
So it's tough. It is about expectations for sure.
Yeah.
And it works the reverse as well a little bit with Montreal. Everyone thought that they'd be at the bottom. They're fighting for a wild card spot.
I certainly did.
And so I think if they don't make the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of disappointed Montreal Canadiens fans. But I think once they take a step back and realize that the team really never probably should have been there, they won't feel as bad.
Maybe. And if they do get in for some crazy reason, it won't be a long run because they'll likely draw Tampa. If they manage to get in at all, they're going to draw Tampa.
I want them to play Tampa.
Well, if you're going to go on a tear, you may as well get rid of the biggest guys first.
You're going to have to beat them eventually, probably. Yeah. I mean, if you play Tampa, there's literally no expectations of winning.
Yeah.
So if you do win, it's going to be a complete miracle. So why not play Tampa?
They've got a lot of material to put on the wall in the dressing room if they do draw Tampa, because just exactly those things. Everybody in the world will have expectations that Montreal may not win a game, that it may be a sweep. Mm-hmm. So far, the season series has been a sweep. Tampa's won all 3 games. So
they've actually been close games, though.
One in particular, I think the last one, the 6-5 game, was really close and really competitive until the very end of the game. So you never know. But, I forget what point total I had for Montreal in our predictions before the season started, but I don't think it was out of the 70s. I think I predicted mid to high 70s.
As well.
Yeah, and here they are already with 87 points or whatever it is now, and
next up, I posted a poll on Twitter. Did you see that this week?
I did. I may even have voted in it, but you'll have to remind me.
So my question on Twitter was, is Gritty...
Oh, I saw it. I didn't vote.
...the best NHL mascot?
Yeah.
I have the results. What would you... there's 3 choices here. Yes, no, or I don't care about mascots. Which one would you have chosen?
Knowing somewhat the age demographic of the viewing audience for the show here, being on the younger side.
Yeah, but Twitter's different, though. You have to be
Twitter, I suppose.
The age on Twitter is a little higher.
Maybe your followers are a little higher. I'm still thinking yes wins by a nose, and I don't care comes last.
You're right. Do you want to guess percentages?
Oh, God. 60% yes, 30% no, 10% don't care, or something like that?
Yes is 48%.
Okay.
No is 39%. And I don't care about NHL mascots is 13%.
Okay.
So, interesting. I would have chosen I don't care about mascots.
I think I would have too.
Although I think Gritty is cool and funny, and I like what he's doing for the franchise of Philadelphia, and or the franchise of the Flyers, and the NHL. I think it's good for the sport. I really don't care that much about mascots. The other conversation I had on Twitter this week was a bit of a controversial topic, and there's going to be people listening here who are adults who do the things that I'm about to complain about. And just remember that even though that we disagree, we can still be friends at the end of this conversation.
This sounds momentous here. Wow.
So there's been a weird trend in the NHL as far as fans go recently, where mostly kids, I'd say like 80% kids, but there's a 20% of adults who are bringing signs to the games, and on the signs they're saying whatever, and then they're asking for a stick. or they're asking for a puck, or they're asking for gloves, or they're asking for a water bottle, or they're basically asking for free stuff. And most of them are sticks. They want free sticks. And I just think that's the most ridiculous thing. You're an adult. Like, if you want a stick, a game stick or whatever, go on NHL.com on their auction section and buy a stick. You're an adult.
And
go
maybe give to charity in the process. Right?
Exactly. Go to the store, buy a puck if you want a puck. Like, they're there at every arena that I'm aware of. Any NHL arena that I've been to, they've had game pucks with signatures. You can just buy them, or you can buy them online. I think it's really weird for adults to do that. I think that they're creating a culture with the players that the players are now expected to give away sticks like every single warm-up, or after every period, or after every game or whatever. I just think that's weird. If you're a kid or whatever, that's fine. That's huge. Like, if you're a kid, getting a stick or a puck, whatever, that's awesome. I still disagree with it a little bit. I think if a player gives away a stick, they do it because they want to, not because they see a sign from someone begging for it. So I think a kid is okay, but an adult not. And I think that how do I word this? I don't think I'm right. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that if you do that, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that we are on opposite sides of that opinion. I think that I don't think there's any way that we can stop it, because I think the players aren't going to just like stop giving out sticks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not.
Yeah, like one way to stop it, I guess, is to stop feeding the monster, because if there's a chance it works, then they'll keep doing it. But if the team's players shut it down, other than throwing pucks into the stands when you're the first star in a certain arena, and maybe as you walk out behind the dressing room as the game's over and there's kids, reaching over and you just throw your stick up, that probably could continue. But for people making signs, give me something.
Do you think it's weird?
Do you
agree?
I think it's so cheap. Oh, I totally agree.
Okay.
Yeah. There is merchandise available for purchase for a reason. These are businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can afford to bring two kids into a hockey arena and your spouse perhaps and throw $500 at tickets, you could probably afford a $200 stick or at the auction site or whatever it might be,
right.
And then get your jollies that way. My concern with some of this stuff is that people are trying to prey upon the good nature of players in order to throw something on eBay and sell it.
Not everyone.
Not everybody.
Not everyone.
But if I would have two minds about it. If someone wanted a signed jersey or something to take home to their sick kid, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if they just want it and you see it 3 days later up on an auction on eBay and they're trying to make a few $100, that's just wrong. And
that's you mentioned signatures. I actually have no problem with adults trying to get signatures on jerseys or pucks or whatever. That's different. Getting a player's signature is way different than asking them for a physical item, in my opinion.
Well, that's true. And the neat thing, like, look what Audie does, for instance.
Exactly.
He buys the item,
yes,
and then sends it to the player, knowing that sometimes he won't get it back at all.
Exactly.
But other times the player will sign it and give it back. And we know Audie. We know that he's a collector himself, and it's for his collection.
Yeah.
And he's really good at going to the rink, hanging out by the certain door when they drive out, or sending something in the mail, knowing what address to send it to and how to go about things for different teams. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants that kind of product, go to Audie James's channel.
Yes.
Right? And watch.
Man,
he has some great instructions.
He has a fantastic series where he I think he calls it mail return. So he mails an item to the player, to the player's agent or something. They sign it usually, probably like 80 or 90% of the time, and then he gets it back weeks or months later. So he actually physically buys the item and sends it to them and then gets the item back, versus waiting with a sign asking for a stick or something like that. So I can understand the mentality of wanting a game stick. Like, that would be really cool to get a game stick, but I'm not going to make a sign and ask for it and take what could have been the stick to a kid away from a kid or whatever who maybe has the same sign on the other side of the arena. So anyway, that's how I feel about that. If you disagree, that's totally fine. That doesn't mean that we're enemies. That just means that we have different opinions on a topic, and we can still be friends. So thank you for listening.
Yeah.
More controversy. Braden Holtby.
Not going to the White House.
Declined going to the White House.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
This is tough because I know how much we want to be clear about keeping politics away from the show. Because there's a reason. The reason that Braden Holtby doesn't want to go is not because he's Canadian. It's because he's uncomfortable.
He doesn't share the same values as Trump.
Exactly. And he's not the only one. Devontae Smith-Pelly said he wouldn't go either.
Tim Thomas wouldn't go, but not for Trump, but for
so
different reasons.
This is the end result when you overly politicize what should be non-political events. If I'm not mistaken, and I'm open to correction if I'm wrong, last year when the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl, a few of them said they wouldn't go. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Trump said, okay, none of you are coming. Like canceled the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't see that happening this time. I think today's the day, this being the Sunday. I think it's on a Sunday, and I believe it might be today, that the trip was going to take place. And it's unfortunate that, because there's really, forget about whose values are what. There's the person who's the president, but then there's the office of the presidency. And this tradition is usually something that connects with the office of the presidency, less so than the person who's the president.
That's right.
That way your own personal politics or values shouldn't even really be a thing. Now, I did also read that when the Capitals do go, whenever that visit is, it's not a media or photo op opportunity for the wider world to see them there. I'm sure there'll be photographers to take pictures for individual reasons, but it's not going to be a media event, I guess. So it won't be a public thing.
Good.
Which is a good thing. And maybe that's the way it always ought to be.
Yes, I agree.
I like the idea. I like the tradition of the championship team, especially the hometown championship team, in this case, the Capitals, being invited to what is likely the most important building in the entire town that they play for. So that all has a synergy to it. And I think if it were me... that's
what I was going to ask you. What would you do?
If it were me, I would look at it as the office that was inviting me and honoring the office by going. So I think I would go irrespective of whether it was Trump, Obama, or Joe Biden, or Beto O'Rourke. I think I would go.
I agree. I would also go. I wouldn't see as me supporting the president. I wouldn't care if he was there or not. I just want to see the White House and see, behind the doors of certain rooms.
You're getting a tour.
I don't care about it. So anyway, I don't, just because Braden Holtby's going doesn't mean that I think that he's wrong in his decision.
Absolutely. This is a very important decision for every person to make in their own soul. And I completely understand why Devontae Smith-Pelly, Braden Holtby, whoever, would not want to go on that trip, because they don't want to send a message that could be hijacked by somebody else too, right? And they want to make sure that they're not used as a pawn or a football in some later thing. So totally fine to them. It's an individual decision. It would be nice if everyone decided to get it.
It's not really about right or wrong. It's just about personal preference. So
Totally. There's no right answer here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, my last topic before we get into the game recaps and stuff. Do you think that NHL owners can make a difference in a team and a team's success, or in a fan base?
In a fan base? So if the fans have an affinity with the owner, they're more patient?
They're more interested in going to the games. They're more interested in supporting the team. Do you think an owner has that pull? Not necessarily because they like the owner, but maybe because the owner has done things for the organization that makes the organization more appealing to the fans.
That's a very good question, and I'm not sure I know the answer.
Like Carolina, for example, their owner Dundon has that he wanted the Whalers jerseys to come back for this year. He wanted a couple of other things. He's okay with the celebrations at the end of the games. Like there's a lot of little things that he's done. Look at the Carolina attendance.
Yeah.
2 years ago, bottom of the league, basically. Right now, that arena is full every single night. Look how excited they get for the celebration at the end. Like,
as I said to you earlier, hopefully we won't see one tonight.
Yeah, really. That, to me, that is an example of an owner changing the culture of a team and the fan base and revitalizing a franchise. So I think the answer is yes. And on the opposite side of the coin, Eugene Melnyk for Ottawa has done the exact opposite for the Ottawa Senators. He has devastated that team and that franchise and that fan base to the point where there is a large majority of Ottawa fans who refuse to even watch Ottawa games on TV because it's supporting of the team.
Nobody would know.
No, but still. And even like they won't go to games, nothing.
Yeah.
They won't buy any Ottawa merchandise because
they're basically going on strike.
Exactly.
Against the ownership. I think nowadays it's probably the case where the owner's name and profile and decisions make a bigger impact. I think it's safe to say that in the 1970s, nobody really cared.
I agree.
Who the owners of the teams were. They cared about the coach, maybe a little bit about the GM, but it was mostly about the players. And I hope that still becomes the main the main default for fans' attachment to a team is through the players. Anything else is trickery. If it's a mascot or if it's a celebration or even the Hartford, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's not to do with the product on the ice necessarily, right? So that's like you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs through the 70s and early 80s, the ownership, people, I think, roundly disagreed with the ownership and disliked the owner, but filled that arena every night for every home game.
Yeah, but from a player standpoint, there was a Carolina player who said, I think yesterday, I can't remember the player, and I do apologize, but he said, I've never had more fun playing hockey. Probably because of the celebrations at the end of the game. Everything is loose. Like there's no pressure. You're playing hockey and you're having fun and stuff because like the owner has implemented things even for the players and the team and stuff. Like that helps the mental health of the players.
Yeah.
Because of what the owner's done, which has in turn made the team more successful. So,
but sometimes they're just ideas that come out of an owner's head, but most of the time they're probably ideas that come from somewhere in the organization and the owner approves it.
Right.
Whether it's the cannon in Columbus or beating up a car outside in Nashville or whatever. The owner agrees maybe, or maybe doesn't even get a say-so. That he just says, look, I just want to see the balance of the books at the end of the year. Do whatever you want.
Maybe.
I don't know. I think there are owners that are proactive. There are owners that are too active in their team's operations, and people in Ottawa would be an example of that. Owner management. When I say owner, sometimes I mean general manager or hockey operations person, the people who represent the owner. We saw some blowback 6-8 weeks ago in Dallas when we had a problem there that there was criticism from up within the organization. Then you've got owners that are really, really good and quiet. You've got your David Poile in Nashville. You've got your George McPhee in Vegas, where they're fairly content to let the team be run. And they're obviously making important decisions or their teams wouldn't be successful. But they're not. Their personality is not an issue, I don't think.
Isn't Poile the GM?
Maybe he is. And again, that's when I say GM, Chief of Hockey Operations, owner. To me, that's one big machine.
So you think that sometimes it's just about the decision of the GM that allows certain things to happen, not necessarily the ideas of the GM or him meddling and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I think there's an opportunity for good ideas to come from anywhere. And if they're good enough, they get approved and they start happening. I love the Hartford idea.
I do too.
I love it. And they've done it now with 2 road games in Boston that I'm aware of. I don't think they do it at home, nor should they. But when they're on the road in Boston, in the New England market, back before many of the fans that they used to have in Hartford, fantastic.
How do you feel about the Toronto Maple Leaf players now being allowed to grow facial hair?
I wasn't sure what I thought of it before. I facial hair, tattoos, personal body decoration or non-decoration is really something that a hockey team or any sports team probably should stay out of generally.
I agree. And we've had this discussion before.
But I tell you, when I see Jake Muzzin skating down the ice, he doesn't look like he belongs.
No, he doesn't, but he's got a pretty awesome beard, and
Yeah.
I approve. So.
Yeah. I'm cool with it. My preference would be for hockey players to all, and that this goes for Joe Thornton, and it goes for Burns, and it goes for all these monsters, these gritty lookalikes that are out there playing in the West Coast, most of them.
Yeah.
I don't.
You don't agree with that big of a
No.
muff?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just personal preference. I just don't think it looks like a hockey player. When I think of it, a Tim Horton, a Rod Gilbert,
I agree.
Clean cut, good old boys.
It doesn't look like a
guys from the
typical hockey
prairies.
player, but I do like it. Yeah, that's personality.
Yeah, that's all it is, and it's okay. Things are different. Obviously, old fashioned wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the new stuff. So
That's true. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, on to the game recaps.
All right.
So the Islanders played Philadelphia. Islanders got a much-needed win. They won 4-2. Did you see Hart's pads with those jerseys? Because Philadelphia's wearing their third jerseys.
Yeah, I didn't notice. I watched a lot of that game, but I didn't.
I pay a lot of attention to aesthetics, and Carter Hart's pads matched the jersey so well. I think he's one of the best-looking goaltenders in gear. Based on jersey and pad design and stuff. So I really appreciate that. That was awesome to see.
Yeah, it was. That was actually a closer game than the score might indicate. It showed 4-2, but it was 2-2 up until about 4 minutes left in the third period. And then Josh Bailey went boink, boink, got two, and it ended up being 4-2. And they were nice goals. It was a nice game. Hard on Philadelphia because they're still mathematically in. Mm-hmm. Had they won that game, they would be starting to knock on the door behind Montreal and Columbus. But they got losing in regulation like they did. That's a big knife in the chest right there for them.
Philadelphia's been frustrating me a little bit. I've watched them actually quite a bit of Philadelphia recently. Montreal's played them twice, I think, in the past 2 weeks, and I've watched, I think, 3 other games that they've been on TV. They do a lot of puck watching, but not every game, and it only in specific parts of the game. Like the last half of the third period in yesterday's game, a ton of puck watching. Mm-hmm. And it was really frustrating. But the Islanders showed some resilience. I think it was a pretty good game on their part. But I always when I'm watching a team, I always try and keep my eyes on my favorite player. Now, we just released some videos on our favorite players from each division, from each team. In Philadelphia, mine's Shane Gostisbehere. And I always watch him on the ice. He has to have one of the best shots as a defenseman in the league. He's not a big guy, but he has one of the best shots. He scored a beautiful goal yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
And I always like watching him shoot the puck. Very talented.
Yeah, that goal he scored was to tie the game at 2.
Yeah.
So it was a big goal.
It was an important goal.
And it was a game to get them back in it. And then
but
the Islanders.
Big win for the Islanders. They really, really needed that. They've been struggling recently and struggling to score goals. So it's good to see a number 4 up there on the score sheet. The game after that was the Devils and Arizona game. New Jersey won 2-1 in a shootout. I thought Darcy Kemper was unreal in that game. He made some incredible saves. But New Jersey was absolutely relentless at times, completely relentless. They were all over Arizona. If it wasn't for Kemper, man, that game would have been probably like 5-1.
Arizona's very lucky. They have had a bad run this past week, and they at the worst possible time.
Yeah,
and they needed at least a point. They managed to luck a point out of that game, but it was close.
They almost won in overtime.
They did.
Clayton Keller hit the post. He had a wide open net, and he hit the post.
And then the shootout went a long time before Pavel Zacha scored.
Zacha, yeah. Who was it that said that in the broadcast?
It was a guy on...
it was in between periods or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually a sports channel person who was going through the game recaps and called him Pavel Zacha.
Yeah, Pavel Zacha.
But that was the 6th round of the shootout.
Yeah.
And that actually wasn't the game-ending moment because Mackenzie Blackwood had to make the save on Panique on the other end, and he did. So that was the game.
Did you say Panique?
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's his. Did you do that on purpose?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. Do you know that after every game he goes to disco?
He goes to disco?
Yeah. Panic at the Disco. Anyway, it's a joke that won't make sense to anyone under the age of 40.
No.
So.
And his name's also pronounced Ponic.
Ponic.
According to his country. Next game, Colorado and Chicago. We actually watched the majority of this game.
We did.
Colorado won 4-2. We noticed a couple things in this game. Crawford played really, really well in that first period specifically. That was a huge win for Colorado. They really, really needed that win because they're on a bit of a run right now, and they wanted to keep that going and keep competitive. I think the biggest thing that I noticed in that game is Nathan McKinnon is probably one of the best, if not the best, stick handler in the game of hockey right now. But that doesn't mean that he's perfect because he had some pretty bad giveaways in that game and some pretty lazy trips back to the bench. We saw him glide from one side of the ice to the other side near the benches and not look at the play, not look at the puck, and literally glide the entire way. It was probably like 6 seconds of just gliding. It was ridiculous. It was one of the worst going for line changes of laziness that I've seen.
And this wasn't a case where Colorado had dumped the puck down in the other end to do the line change, and they knew they had time. Colorado actually still had 50% possession of the puck.
It was kind of back and forth in the neutral zone or something.
Yeah, they were just diddling around at the Chicago blue line, and he just, I'm done. Stick in the air and gliding back to the bench. And the play was underway and at risk.
Yeah, that was weird.
Not crazy about
very
that.
strange, but anyway.
Another important, I think, note there, Colorado, first it was a home game, so they might be considered the favorite, everything else being equal. There's a rematch today.
Yes, it's going to be really
interesting. Colorado was playing without Landeskog and without Rantanen.
And without Rantanen, yeah.
And they still managed to pull off a pretty strong performance against Chicago. And it looks like they won't have either gentleman with them again today. So, and they'll be on the road. Of course, both teams traveled the exact same distance last night.
Exactly.
So there's no advantage there other than Chicago's at the United Airlines or whatever.
They get to sleep in their own bed last night.
That's about it. And that's not always a good thing.
That's true. I thought that Girard had some amazingly skilled plays yesterday back on the blue line for Colorado. He held the puck in the zone at times where I thought that Chicago was going to break free, and he showed a lot of patience. So just a little quick shout out to him.
Yeah, another shout out. This was last night or yesterday afternoon was Brad Watson's last game as an NHL official, as an NHL referee. He was signed to an amateur type contract in 1993 and officiated his first games in the '96 season, and he's been a real rock in the NHL, in the NHL OA.
We had this discussion off camera yesterday. I thought it was a little weird that you would retire with like 6 games left in the season right before the playoffs. Being one of the most tenured referees in the league and the most experienced, you'd think the NHL would want referees like that in the playoffs in big games like that. So
maybe they do. Maybe it was his choice. I don't know. But he's been working for 23 years.
Yeah.
Or 24, actually, if you go 96, 22, 23, whatever. That's a lot. And he's maybe just...
And there could be a situation that we don't know about. Maybe he wanted to retire last year, and they had a shortage of referees or something like that for the playoffs. And like, Brad, we need you. You can't retire yet. Can you please? Yeah. Who knows?
He did 1,383 regular season games.
Wow.
214 playoff games, including 8 Stanley Cup final series.
See, that's what I mean. Like, he's so experienced.
Yeah. And he also did 4 outdoor games, like Winter Classics and that kind of thing. 4.
That's a pretty good resume.
He's got Olympics. He did the 2010 Olympics in Salt Lake City. No, that wasn't. It wasn't Salt Lake City.
No, Salt Lake City was 2002.
2010 was Vancouver, right? But he did the 2010 Olympics. He did other Olympics. He did World Cups. He did lots. He did lots of hockey.
2000, I think, was Salt Lake City.
Yeah. And he may have done that one too. But he had quite a career. And the best part of it all was when the game ended, even though all Colorado wanted to do was celebrate and all Chicago wanted to do was get off the ice, both teams lined up and shook his hand.
Nice.
And one of the players gave him a stick. I forget which one. I don't know if I even saw which player gave him the stick. And afterwards I could see him holding the stick as he was shaking hands with the players and they were wishing him the best in his retirement. So that's one of the many beautiful things about the game of hockey.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, definitely. We often don't get to really appreciate the relationship between the referees and linesmen and the players. You see them talk all the time on the ice. You never know what they're saying, but sometimes they're smiling and stuff and having good chats. So it would be cool to kind of be the fly on the wall in some of those conversations and listen in. But
Whenever they mic a ref or a player, usually it's a player, I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, during the, was it the Spengler Cup? They had a mic on the ref, or on one of the linesmen, actually, and you could hear him issuing instructions each time he was about to drop the puck. Unfortunately, the announcers talked over him all the time, so you couldn't actually hear what he was saying, which was totally dumb. But I would pay extra to have a mic'd ref, or have them all mic'd and be able to change channels and listen to various parts of the game. That would be an economic opportunity, NHL.
That's right.
Allow your watchers to listen to live audio. NASCAR does it now. You can get online and select what car you want to ride in with the onboard camera.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So NHL, get on that.
Get her done,
Get on that.
All right. The next game after that was the Montreal-Buffalo game. Montreal won 7-4. You watched this game. I did not. Price wasn't great from what I saw in the highlights, but neither was Hutton. And I think Montreal won the mental game there. Montreal got the lead, or Buffalo got the lead, then Montreal kind of came back, and then they got a 3-1 lead, I think, and then Buffalo came back, but Montreal mentally kind of stuck in there and kept playing and got the lead again, and then Buffalo came back again. So I think Montreal kind of won the mental game in a sense where they never got defeated mentally, and they always kept trying and trying and trying. So
last year, if Montreal was leading a game 3-1 and the opposing team scored 2 goals fairly closely together, and it was now tied 3-3, the air would go out of Montreal. They would just collapse and say, oh, frig it. This time, they went back and got a goal before the end of the second period and ended up going into the second intermission up 4-3. And then the game was on after that for Montreal. But, yeah, it wasn't Price's best performance, but he made some dandies when he needed to, and some got by him. There was a dead, terrible giveaway by Jonathan Drouin on the blue line that led to the tying goal late in the second period, made it 3-3. It was terrible. But then Buffalo had a bad giveaway in the third that led to a goal as well, or led to a bad penalty and some other giveaways too. Andrew Shaw got a goal earlier in the game that was quite pretty, but then he took a mental, undisciplined break in the third period. He thought he was elbowed.
And it's not that he wasn't elbowed, but I think he thought he was elbowed intentionally.
Yeah, at this point the game is 5-3, and there's maybe 10 minutes left to go, or 11 or something like that. He thought he was elbowed down in the Buffalo corner, and he gets up and he's mad, and he just starts taking a run. And he skated all the way across the ice and crunched a guy in the boards. And it wasn't the guy who did it. I forget who it was that did it or almost did it. And then he went after another guy. And then Scandella jumps in, and then there's a whole melee.
Skinner was there, and he
Skinner
grabbed
was
Skinner.
there. So ended up getting, he got a 4-minute double minor. 2 minutes for roughing and 2 minutes for charging or something. And just at the expiry of that 4-minute penalty, just after he had come out of the box, Buffalo scored and made it 5-4. And now we're looking at 9 minutes left, and it's only a 1-goal game. Montreal did get a goal, made it 6-4, and then got an empty netter later. But it was closer than it looked. Montreal got away with one there a little bit. But it's a game that, for most of the game, they were the best team. But these discipline problems need to stop. And it's ironic because on the weekend there was a news article about how great it's been that Andrew Shaw has settled down and he's controlling his emotions. And then that happens.
Yeah.
So that was awful.
Really frustrating. I actually don't like Andrew Shaw that much. As a Canadiens fan, he's probably my least favorite player on the team. So I would be even though he's having a career season, I'd actually like to see Montreal trade Andrew Shaw, but that's just my personal opinion.
Do you know who led plus-minus in the team yesterday?
Shea Weber.
Victor Mete.
I was going to say Victor Mete, actually.
+4. +4 in a game that you only won by 3 goals. So that's a plus. That
is a plus.
Gallagher's a +3. He got 33 goals. That's his
career high.
Career high. Same thing. Career high for Max Domi now. 26 goals, including a power play goal, which Montreal is unable to score on a normal day. Tatar was +3. Byron got one, Lehkonen got one, and Shaw, like I said, got a goal earlier in the game. Jack Eichel scored for Buffalo, completing his set. Jack Eichel had scored at least one goal against every team in the NHL except Montreal until last night. Now he's got a complete set.
There you go.
You can retire now, Jack.
That's right.
Or change teams. That'd be great.
Yeah, really, eh?
Yeah.
And he hasn't scored against Buffalo.
No, that's right.
Laine scored against Winnipeg, though. Did you remember that?
I do. One other little factoid there. Lehkonen's goal to tie it made him the scorer of Montreal's 22,000th goal.
That's crazy.
In its 110-year history. 22,000 goals.
That's a lot of goals.
That's unbelievable. And Lehkonen got it. So he'll be in the history books for that reason.
There you go.
If it's ever a question on Jeopardy,
now you know.
Now you know.
The next game was the Boston-Florida game. Boston won 7-3. Florida's defensive coverage was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. A lot of puck watching going on, a lot of lack of effort in the defensive zone, and Boston looked just so strong that entire game. So that was an important win for Boston. They're obviously not going to catch Tampa, but they're establishing their presence upon Toronto, saying that, yeah, we've got a lead on you, but we're still building that lead and we're still winning, even though that we don't need to. So.
Chara celebrated his $2 million contract for next year with his 200th goal.
Exactly, yes.
So good for him.
Good game for everyone in Boston.
Yeah, Halak got the win. Montembeault was the losing goalie.
Yeah, he let in some fairly weak goals, even though he's been playing pretty good recently.
He has been. He's been a plus for Florida.
Yeah, he's let in some. That game specifically let in some softies. But
Boston scored 5 goals in the second period alone.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's painful.
Yeah.
But Florida creamed them in the faceoff circle. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
62-39.
Really?
Weird. Yeah.
Carolina played Minnesota. Carolina smashed them 5-1. I would say that Carolina played almost a perfect game. Minnesota was puck watching and taking silly risks. Carolina had a lot of odd man rush opportunities, 2-on-1s and breakaways and 4-on-2s, and it seemed like Minnesota was taking quite a bit of risks. And I guess that's what you do when you're down in a game and you need to score goals. You take risks, but I think that Carolina also got a bit of some puck luck as well. There were specific plays and passes and stuff that maybe shouldn't have gone through in a typical game, and it was just inches away from a stick hitting it and deflecting it away and stuff. So a bit of puck luck there, but still.
Brent Pesce was a +5
good for him.
In a 5-1 game.
Nice, good. I think he was the guy who said that maybe he's having so much fun.
Having so much fun?
Yeah,
okay.
I think that was maybe him. But
could be. Now, just before we leave, I want to talk a little bit about the Sully that they had.
The basketball celebration. Yeah, it was awesome.
They actually wheeled out a net. It wasn't full height.
Yeah.
And then there was a dunk. I forget who dunked it, but I get it. In fact, I like that better than some of the bowling and curling and all that. At least with this, it's celebrating March Madness. We know how basketball crazy the United States is, and particularly in the Mid-Atlantic states and the Southeast. Carolina in particular with the Tar Heels and Duke and everything else. So I get it. I'm okay with it. I just don't want to see it tonight.
I have a very interesting question for you, and this is completely off topic. I'm going to put my pen on my paper so I don't lose my thought here, because this is going to take probably 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Do you think it would be more interesting to watch basketball players play hockey or hockey players play basketball? Which would you prefer to watch?
I would definitely want to see basketball players play hockey because probably none of them can skate. So it would just be like watching mites.
Okay. Would you prefer to watch football players play hockey or hockey players play football?
For the same reason, I would rather football players play hockey. Just because I love watching any kind of hockey, I would hate to be stuck watching basketball played by a bunch of people who aren't good at it.
I agree, but hockey players would be better at basketball than basketball players would be better at hockey.
No question.
I think football players, obviously most of them can't skate or can't skate well, so it would be clumsy, but the physicality they'd already be used to, and they'd probably enjoy that because it's free game. In football, you're waiting around until the play starts, and then you've got 7 seconds of whatever, and then you're just waiting around. In hockey, it's all the time. Like, they'd be running around hitting people left and right.
They would.
It would be awesome.
But then they'd all be on oxygen on the bench, too.
Yeah, they would.
Because they wouldn't have that 60 minutes of go-go.
They don't have the stamina, yeah.
No, there's no way. That, like you say, they work in 7-second bursts with lots of time in between. And hockey's not built that way. You gotta go.
Wouldn't it be interesting, though?
No.
What?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I would pay to see that.
Okay. Well.
Let me know in the comments if you agree with me or if you agree with him. Anyway.
When people cross over sports, even if they expect they're going to be good, and sometimes they can do that. We've had some baseball, football crossovers, right? We've got, is it Tebow playing a little bit of baseball now, Tim Tebow?
Yeah, and Michael Jordan did it back in the day.
Yeah, so it's not unheard of, and sometimes players are amateur drafted by more than one sport, and then they decide what they're going to play later. Which is kind of cool.
There's a player on the Islanders like that. I don't know if it was Ladd or Lee or
Letty, one of those L guys.
Letty, someone. They were a fantastic baseball player in college or something like that, and they almost went pro in baseball instead or something. I can't remember which player it is. If you're an Islanders fan, please correct me in the comment section. But anyway. Generally, most professional athletes are probably going to be good at most other sports. It's just the way that it is. They're gifted.
Yeah,
so.
There's a lot to be said there.
Anyways, the next game was the Rangers-Toronto game. The Rangers won 2-1. Georgiev was unbelievable in that game. Toronto did play strong, though, in both ends. They were much better defensively. But the Rangers won because of me. You know that, right?
Oh, thank you.
I wore my lucky sock last night.
Your lucky sock. Singular.
If you're new, I have a broken ankle and I can only wear one sock. But I have socks with little astronauts on them, and they're my lucky socks. I didn't wear them the day that I broke my ankle, so but I wore one last night, and I joked before the game that maybe Toronto will lose because I was wearing the lucky sock, and they did.
So you're admitting here that you wanted Toronto to lose?
Yes.
Okay.
It's still mathematically possible for Montreal to catch Toronto.
Oh, okay. That's why. Yeah.
So, the Rangers won. So I completely you're welcome, Rangers fans. But yeah,
they still let Toronto get a point thanks to Hyman's goal late.
And it was a nice goal too. Very pretty pass from Tavares.
Yeah, it was very nice. Matthews had a rough night.
Yeah, he was kind of all over the place.
Yeah, he gave an interview post-game where he talked about how well Georgiev had played. Georgiev. But what he didn't say was that some of the biggest missed opportunities weren't because Georgiev made a save. It's because he missed the net.
Yeah.
He had several chances.
He made some nice plays, though.
He did. And that poke check in overtime by Georgiev was unreal. Georgiev. We love saying that.
If you don't know why we say that, go watch our favorite player, Metro Division.
Georgiev.
The game after that was the Winnipeg-Nashville game. Winnipeg won 5-0. Game probably would have been 10-0 without Pekka Rinne because he made some absolutely highlight reel saves in that game, and like throughout the entire game. Just it was unreal. So big win for Winnipeg. They're playing specifically in that game playoff hockey. Mm-hmm. That was a playoff style game for Winnipeg. It was awesome. So good job.
Yeah, and Winnipeg. Kyle Connor got a hat trick in that game.
Yes, he did. His first NHL hat trick, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And they scored their fifth goal with like 9 seconds left or something. And it was a good game. Yeah,
it was really nice. The first period was scoreless, so Rinne was able to hold them in for a while, but then the seal broke, and the second, that was it.
Exactly,
but, yeah, Colton Sissons had a rough night, -5 in a 5-0 game.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah. The Ottawa-Edmonton game, Ottawa won 4-3. Koskinen glove hand again is pretty bad. Anderson with his first win since mid-December.
Yeah, good for you, Craig.
Mid-December. That's actually a really good game. I'm not sure if you did get a chance to see it, then hopefully you agree with me. But I thought it was a good game, even though those teams aren't really battling for much. It was a really high intensity game.
There was some beautiful plays. Did you see one of Brady Tkachuk's goals, the funky one from behind the net?
I did. That was very strange.
That was cool.
Very strange.
And did you see Alex Chason's backhanded breakaway goal? He was going in on a breakaway and he spun.
I don't remember that one.
And did a backhand.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. Yeah, I remember that one now. Okay,
that was cool.
The game after that was the St. Louis-Tampa Bay game. St. Louis won 4-3. Absolutely huge win for St. Louis. Really good game to watch just as a hockey fan. And that was St. Louis's second win against Tampa Bay this year. Tampa Bay has not beat St. Louis this year.
This is great. St. Louis has a beautiful record like that against a couple of teams.
Yeah.
Even though they've generally struggled and been very mediocre all year, there's a couple of teams that have got their number. Nashville's the other one, I think.
It's like Arizona with Toronto.
Yeah.
Like Arizona usually always beats Toronto for whatever reason. But yeah, it's just weird. So great game. I'd like to see them play a series against each other. It's highly unlikely. No offense to St. Louis, but yeah, it'd be an awesome series.
Yeah, did you see the tying goal that was called back because of an offside?
I did see that. Yeah. Yes, I did. It was clearly offside.
It was clearly offside, but good on them to
the St.
make
Louis
the challenge.
video staff to notify the coaches and stuff, and maybe they already saw it on the literal iPads or whatever. But
did you see Schen's goal backhanded between his legs?
Yes, that was awesome. And it's even better in slow motion if you got a chance to see it in slow motion.
Yeah, that was very sweet.
The game after that was the Pittsburgh-Dallas game. Pittsburgh won 3-2. Matt Murray with some huge saves. Once again, every time I watch Pittsburgh play, Matt Murray comes up with some massive saves. And I thought there was some impressive skilled moves by many in this game. There was one play kind of near the end by Radulov where he came in and it looked like he was going to spin around and maybe make a pass because there was a kind of a player to his left and kind of left behind. And he went to go make the turn, and it was just a fake turn, and then he went back the other way and basically kind of went on a breakaway. Did you see it?
No.
He kind of went on and looked a little breakaway and got a shot. And I thought it was just a really skilled play. And there was a couple of really skilled plays by some people on Pittsburgh as well. Just some really good skilled hockey plays in that game. And unfortunately, the team that I was cheering for lost.
One of McCann's goals was that backhander he had.
Yes, a skilled.
That was
a goal from a skilled play, yeah.
Yeah.
The Calgary-Vancouver game is a game I watched pretty much in its entirety. Calgary won 3-1. Vancouver played well, but got caught puck watching quite a bit. There was a point where Calgary scored. I think it was maybe the second goal, maybe the first. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyways, there's a shot of 5 Vancouver players all standing right in front of Markstrom, and they're all watching the puck, and it's just, oh my god, it's really frustrating if you're a Vancouver fan. But I mean, you're playing Calgary, one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, Vancouver had a chance to climb back in the third very early on. Besser got that power play goal, and there was a chance at that point. Did you see the hit behind the net when Smith goes back to play the puck?
Oh my god, he flopped so much.
Edler hit him.
What a dive. I can't believe he didn't get a penalty.
He did.
Oh, he did?
Well, Edler got a penalty, but Smith didn't get a diving.
I was going to say, I don't remember Smith getting an embellishment penalty. He should have.
Yeah, he went down like he'd been shot.
Yes, that was ridiculous.
He went down like a soccer player.
Yeah, he did. Helmet came off. The arms were everywhere. Anyways.
That was good.
Detroit beat Vegas.
What?
What's going on? I actually didn't watch any highlights from this game. I have nothing to say about this game. I'm sorry. But yeah, Detroit beat Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas was playing Subban, probably just to give Fleury a bit of a rest. So
I don't think that's why they lost, though.
No,
I don't assume that's why they lost. Again, I didn't watch the highlights.
Yeah,
so.
but I think it's safe to say that Fleury has saved their bacon many times this year
Bacon.
in questionable games. Yeah, there's bacon upstairs, by the way.
Okay, let's wrap this up.
Right.
LA beat Anaheim, and I believe a shootout. I did not watch the highlights from this as either. I do apologize.
It was
very late.
I did see the highlights of that. The shootout was Kopitar.
Oh, I did see the game-winning, the shootout winner.
Where he does the deke and like the
I did
one-handed
see that. That was
around
nice.
the right-hand side there.
Yeah. I predicted Anaheim to win that game, so I'm a little disappointed that LA won.
Yeah, Raquel tied with 2 seconds left in the second. Tied the game on a power play, but 2 seconds to go, and Raquel scored, and that made that kept it being a game. So I knew you'd like that.
Heck yeah!
Yeah.
Today's games: Philadelphia and Washington. Who are you choosing?
This is tough. Washington doesn't have Hagelin. Probably won't have Hagelin. He's questionable, but unlikely. They won't have Kempney. He's out with a leg problem, so they're a little undermanned. Still, it's Philadelphia. I think they don't have enough, so I'm going to pick Washington.
I'm also going to pick Washington for this one. Okay. Arizona and the Islanders.
Arizona's had a really tough go. The Islanders, I think, have started to recover from a bad week or a bad couple of weeks, so I think it's the Islanders.
I think it's the Islanders as well. I think it's going to be a really, really close game, potentially going to overtime, maybe shootout kind of style game.
Yeah.
Montreal, Carolina.
And that's what I think is going to happen here. I think it'll go late. I don't think we'll know the winner of this game until late in the game.
I think it's done early.
Do you?
Yeah, I think Carolina is probably going to win this game like 6-2.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm writing that down.
I think Carolina's going to smash Montreal. It's going to be embarrassing.
Wow. I really don't have a good feeling for this game. They're going to start Price again. That's pretty well a given. He's going to start every game from now on because they're all so important. The question will be, Carolina played yesterday, so are they going to start McElhinney today or what? I don't know. So they may, if they go with McElhinney, who's got a good record too, I don't think it really matters. I don't think they're disadvantaged by going with him because both goalies have pretty good records. But yeah, I guess one of the questions I have is Montreal has been sitting some players as healthy scratches. Dale Weiss, Nick Delorier, Pekka. Is it time to maybe put some of those cats in?
I don't think so.
No.
Montreal's on a 3-game winning streak. Don't change anything.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. They left at 10 to midnight last night on their flight to Raleigh. And it was an hour-and-a-half flight. They get in at 1:30 in the morning. And
maybe a little tired. It's an earlier game. I think it starts at like 7 our time, 6
I
Eastern?
think it's 7 our time, yeah. And interestingly, it's being broadcast on the Canadian Aboriginal People's Television Network, in addition to the regular sports channels that we watch. They're going to broadcast it on APTN in Cree.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool.
It's very cool. So if we go over to APTN, and unfortunately if you're an American viewer, you likely wouldn't be able to get it, but they're going to have a Cree announcer doing the game in Cree, which is...
That's actually really cool.
That's really awesome, yeah.
Nice. Chicago plays Colorado again.
Again.
Second time in 2 days.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really good thing. It's almost like a playoff kind of feel a little bit.
Well, it is. Chicago's almost mathematically out now, but Colorado is very close to catching Dallas. Dallas has had a really bad run, and Colorado can see the whites of their eyes.
The light,
I think. Yeah. So I think Colorado's going to, even though they still don't have Rantanen, they still won't have Landeskog, I think they've got some jump after yesterday's game, and they'll come in sailing.
This one was tough for me. Chicago plays really well at home, so I'm really leaning towards Chicago here. And with the absence of Rantanen and Landeskog, I think Colorado's might struggle against Chicago today. I really, really, really want to pick Chicago, but I'm going to pick Colorado because I think they're going to continue their little streak. Columbus and Vancouver.
Columbus, they've got a lot of rest. They haven't played since Thursday night. So they've been sitting there waiting, licking their chops. So on paper, you'd say, oh, Columbus is going to be ready to go. Vancouver's going to be tired from last night, especially after losing to Calgary. So Columbus would have the edge. But Bobrovsky is not well. They're not saying what, but he's not. He may not start.
I saw his quote that he released recently about him maybe not feeling, if he doesn't feel like he can make a difference in whatever, then he's not putting on gear or something like that. Or
yeah. And you've got Rantanen, Foligno. Got the wrong page here. Foligno, who's still back in Columbus. He went home for a family emergency of some kind, and hope it works out, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is.
But he's not with the team. And then you've got ever since the trading deadline, they're like 4-7-1 or something bad. Their record has been very poor.
Yeah.
And it's not looking good for them. Now, some of this is wishful thinking because, of course, Montreal is trying to stay ahead of them. If Montreal does manage to do the impossible today and Columbus loses in regulation, that is a 5-point spread.
It's going to be tough for Columbus to come back from
Very
that.
tough.
Yeah.
They'll have 2 games, or they'll have a game or 2 in hand. 1, I guess. But too steep.
This day might determine that 8th wildcard spot. Like, seriously, this day might be more important than any other day following it.
It could very well
depending on what happens.
Yeah.
If Montreal wins and Columbus loses, that might set things in stone.
Yeah.
But
so I'm going to pick Vancouver. 65% of it's wishful thinking, 35% of it is actually analysis. So
I'm going to pick Columbus. I think you're right. I think they've been sitting a little while, maybe a little bit too rested. But I think that this is a game. They know they need to win this game. They're playing Vancouver, who is an inferior team statistically than them, and they must win this game. So I think that Columbus is going to win, even though I don't want them to. As far as streaks, Boston's on a 4-game winning streak. Colorado's on a 4-game winning streak. Calgary with 3. St. Louis with 3. Montreal with 3. My players of the week, you want to take any guesses?
A bit of an inside joke. I assisted Nhl with doing some searching so he could come up with his players of the week. So I think it would be unfair of me to pretend to guess.
That's true. My player of the week is Riley Smith. 4 games played, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points, and a +6. Well done, Riley Smith.
Nice.
For goalies, it's Philip Grubauer. 4 games played, 4 wins, .970 save percentage, and a goals against average of 1. So, very good, very, very good week by Grubauer. And that's all I have for this podcast.
Very good. Well, as you know, especially now as we're getting close to the playoffs, I zero down to the team's potential. They're I won't call it a power ranking, but it would be similar to that, I guess. And as I've explained the last couple of weeks, every team has potential for 164 points at the beginning of the season, and that total number drops with every loss or lack of a 2-point win in their schedule. Here are the teams. 4 teams had perfect weeks since last Sunday, and you talked about
Colorado's 1.
Colorado's 1. Boston is 1. Correct.
Oh, I guess I just look at the streaks. Calgary, St. Louis.
Calgary's 1, but St. Louis did have a loss in there. So
Montreal.
Montreal is the other one. So 4 teams have had perfect weeks. The Bruins, the Canadiens, the Avalanche, and the Flames. Several teams had good weeks. And I would say a good week is a week where you fall short of your winning every game by 1 or 2 points. Tampa Bay, Vancouver, Detroit, the Kings, Pittsburgh, Carolina, the Rangers, Winnipeg, St. Louis, and Vegas had pretty good weeks. Fair and poor weeks were had by Toronto, Buffalo, Ottawa, the Islanders, Washington, Columbus, Philadelphia, Nashville, Dallas, Minnesota, Chicago, San Jose, Arizona, Edmonton, and Anaheim. And stinky weeks, absolute stinkus, Florida and New Jersey.
That's it?
That's it. We just heard all 31 teams there. You want to play it back?
Nope.
Now, looking at the overall playoff picture, right now it looks like Tampa Bay is going to draw Montreal if nothing changes. Tampa Bay is up 3-0-0 in the season series against Montreal. Tampa Bay has 6 games left, 5 of them against decent teams. Montreal has 7 games left, all of them against decent teams. Hence your point a while ago about Columbus having an easier schedule. That is very true. Boston would play Toronto. Boston is up 3-1-0 in that series. They have 7 games left, 5 against decent teams. Toronto has the same amount of games left, and they're playing 6 against decent teams. Washington Capitals right now would draw Carolina. Washington's up in that series 2-0-0. And they have 7 games left, all of them against decent teams, while Carolina has 8 games left and 7 of them against decent teams. Here's an interesting one. The New York Islanders would play Pittsburgh right now. The Islanders hold that season series 2-1-1. Well, actually, they're both tied. They both have 2-1-1 records against the other, which sounds odd, but it's true.
I think that it would be a really good series.
It would be a really good series. And right now, they're tied for points. They both have 93 points, so it's not really sure who'd get home ice, although you look at the Islanders, of the 7 games they have left, 6 of them are against quality teams. With the Penguins, of the 6 games they have left, only 2 of them are against decent teams.
Interesting.
So they have an easier path, even though they have one fewer game to make that path. So right now the Islanders have the edge because they do hold that game in hand, but it's a game they may lose because, they've not been stellar in this last little while. So in the West, Winnipeg right now would play Colorado, and that season series is tied 2-2. So it's fairly even there. Of the 7 games they have left in the season, 6 of them are against quality teams, whereas Colorado has 7 games left and 5 of them against quality teams. Interestingly, both wild cards right now coming out of the Central because Arizona's out.
That's true, yes.
So right now, a lot of the teams that are going to be playing each other are familiar to each other. We have next the Nashville Predators in second place in the Central. They would play St. Louis.
Yep.
And St. Louis has Nashville's number this season, so St. Louis has the edge there. And we'll see. Nashville has 6 games left, only 3 of them against quality teams, whereas St. Louis has 7 games left, but only 3 of them against quality teams. So that's interesting, I think. And the Calgary Flames would play Dallas out of the Pacific, so Dallas would cross over into the Pacific and play Calgary. Right now, Calgary's record against Dallas is 0-1-1.
Huh.
And Dallas's record against Calgary is 2-0-0. So Calgary did manage to sneak a mercy point out of one of those games so far. San Jose would play Vegas. And right now it's 1-2-0 for San Jose against Vegas. They hold a 2-1-0 record against the Sharks. San Jose plays 7 more games, only 3 of them against quality teams. Vegas has 5 quality team games out of the 7 they have left to play. Calgary, I missed Calgary. They play 7 games, only 2 of them against contending teams. And we have to put in a special mention, I think, here of Arizona as well. They're not far behind. They're just knocking on the door, basically right there. They're only 1 point back of Colorado. They have 7 games left, only 5, or a full 5 of those against quality teams right now. So it's not out of the picture yet for Arizona to come back and get back into the playoff hunt, but obviously the next 2 weeks will tell the tale.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very, very.
All right.
Special honorable mention, because it's a local news, the Charlottetown Islanders are now in their first-round playoff series.
Right. I was going to actually ask you about that off camera.
Oh, okay.
How are they doing?
They're doing well. They played Friday night and Saturday night. On Friday night, they went into double overtime.
Oh.
Double overtime before winning the game against the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles. Last night, a little more decisive, but they won in regulation. So the Charlottetown Islanders are up 2-0 on Cape Breton in their series. And
good.
There's lots of series going on. There's no way to cover them all.
Yeah.
But the local team is doing good so far. Remember last year, I think they drew Halifax.
They barely made it into the playoffs.
Drew Halifax and then swept them.
And then they beat someone else.
Beat the Quebec Rempart, I think.
Went to the conference finals and went to Game 7, overtime, I think, or something like that, and almost went to the Memorial Cup. It was crazy.
And Bathurst ended up going to the Memorial Cup and winning the whole darn thing.
Yeah.
So Charlottetown's been putting some good. I think this is there's been several years in a row now that they've made the postseason. Yeah. So good for them.
Anyways, so thanks for joining me for this podcast. Thanks, guys and gals for listening and watching, regardless if you're watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes or whatever. We really appreciate the way that you consume our content. Coming up this week on Post to Posts is an unboxing of some merchandise. You'll see that probably tomorrow. You will also see the jersey giveaway from February. You will also probably see a mail time video later in the week. And as far as content on other channels, because of my ankle, because of my injury, they've taken a bit of a backseat, unfortunately. I thought that I was going to be able to keep up, but it's quite painful to keep my foot down and not elevated. So I haven't really been eager to really come down and film a lot of content. But things are getting better on a daily basis, so the worst is over, and it's only going to get better from here as far as content. So that's good news. I know that people will ask questions about my ankle, so instead of answering them all in the comment section, I'll just give you an update. Wednesday, I did go to the hospital to get my surgery cast, if you want to call it that, removed. And I got my stitches out, and I got a normal cast on, which is fiberglass, and it's blue. I got to choose my color, which is kind of fun. And I'll have this on for 2 weeks until April 1st, or just under 2 weeks. I go back to the hospital for x-rays. Depending on what doctor is there and depending on my x-rays, the cast is either going to come off and I'll get a walking boot. And it doesn't mean I'm going to be able to walk. I'm not going to be able to walk for like 3 months minimum. But at least I'll be able to, if I want to sleep, I can take the walking boot off and sleep without anything on my foot, which would be a dream come true at this point. Or I'll keep the cast on in 2 weeks, and I'll have to wear it for an additional 2 weeks after that, and then it'll come off, and then I'll get the walking boot and wear that. So the timeline is still basically the same. I can probably start putting weight on it in about 3 months, full weight in 3 months, and I'll be doing lots of physio and probably not walking unassisted for 5 to 6 months. So that's basically the update. So.
Did you post pictures on Instagram of X-rays and photos of scars and things somewhere?
I think I posted on my personal Instagram, NEILTAYLORR. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I believe I posted an update in my highlighted stories. I have one called Ankle. If you click on that, it shows you most of everything. It is at the end, I think, is the one I posted of the X-ray that they took after my surgery, right after the surgery. It shows everything. So there's 3 plates and 14 screws in the ankle. And I think you can see them all in the photo. But yeah, that's what it is.
And you were saying that the stitch removal process was uncomfortable.
The stitch removal process was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I've had stitches removed before, and it hasn't hurt that bad. The way that normal doctors or old doctors do it is they make a stitch down the incision, stitch, 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 like each one is its own knot or whatever. The way that the trend seems to be going is that they're making a stitch at the one end of the incision and then weaving up the incision all the way to the other end and then stitching. So in my case, that's what they did, unfortunately. And the weaving or the string or whatever you want to call it ended up healing into the incision itself. So they had to untie the stitches at both ends and basically pulled all the way up through. But it's because of that string or the stitch is starting to heal inside the incision, it won't come out. So they actually have to take tweezers and literally dig into the incision to get the string out. And it was by far the most painful thing I've ever felt.
I'm sorry I asked.
Yeah. I have photos of my incisions. I have not posted them on social media because they're a bit gruesome. I didn't want someone to accidentally see it and come upset or whatever. So you can't see that on Instagram. You can't see that on Twitter or anything like that. I will, if I can remember, I will include it at the end of this podcast after everything goes dark. So if you want to see the incision photos of what my ankle actually looks like,
stick around.
When this podcast ends in a few seconds, stick around and wait for the slideshow at the end.
Or not.
or not. If you don't want to see it, then stop now. So thank you guys very much for watching and listening. If you are not subscribed, hope you can hit the subscribe button down below. That would be awesome. I am going to take the opportunity, hopefully over the next week, to tell the story of my ankle on the second channel. So please subscribe there and keep an eye out for that. So thank you guys very much. I hope you're watching lots of hockey, and we will see you in the next podcast. Adios.